there's an element of luck in that. It's out of your hands to an extent because Reform have got such a commanding lead at the moment over the Tories, and Reform is probably in a position now with some of the leads it's enjoying 6, 7, 8, 10% in some cases, in a position where it could be forming quite a durable majority to get things done. And at that point, if you're left with a rump of 30 odd Conservative MPs, there's no guarantee that that 30 odd survives another general election thereafter. So this is really existential for the Conservatives. They need to get their act together quickly if they're going to have any prospect of surviving. And, they'll need luck for sure, but they'll need guile. They'll need guile, they'll need skill, and they'll need to stop trying to gaslight the country that Reform is really left wing and big state because it's just not going to wash. And frankly, it doesn't just lack credibility, it's quite frankly offensive to a lot of former Conservative Party members and former Conservative Party voters who are, now in the Reform sort of orbit. When you hear stuff that's blatantly not true being spouted by the Conservatives, it just hardens you against them. It just hardens for a lot of people that sort of resentment of them as people you can't trust. So they need a new strategy. They need a new comms game for sure. They need to rethink a lot if they're going to have any prospect. They're not dead and buried yet, but they've got a really hard, long clawback to sort of escape the electoral grave that's been dug for them by predecessors of Kemi. Can Kemi up her game? Possibly. I think she has improved from a very shaky start, modestly. I don't think she's pulling up any roots at the moment. I don't think she's really an inspiring political leader by any means. And I think she can be a little bit graceless at that point, to be honest. But she's not really the problem. It's the people around her in that shadow cabinet. They're the real problem, and the lack of humility and sort of willingness to accept that they made mistakes. That's the problem. So, can the Conservatives recover? Theoretically, yes, if they get the right leaders in. If they get, and I don't just mean a leader, I mean leaders around the table. Theoretically, they could recover. But time is running out. Time is against them. They're going to need to pull up roots. They're going to need to do things very differently to get a shot with the electorate. And thing of the Conservative Party was a great, very much a loved brand. I never bought that. I don't think that's been true for a long time. The Conservative Party was seen as a necessary brand, and their selling point was always competence. And they haven't had that for many years now. So to get that so there isn't a great law in the country, a deep love of the Conservative Party, as an institution. I don't believe that's the case. I think there's a sort of a natural, habitual sense of recognizing them to an extent, but the brand isn't great. It hasn't been for a long time because it's lacked philosophical belief and conviction at the root of it. But for them to recover, they're going to need to be really radical pretty quickly in the way that they position themselves, the talent that they bring in. They cannot afford to leave people like Suella Braverman and David Frost, and even Tom Tugendhat, who's from a different philosophical school to those two, but he's still a talented bloke. They can't afford to leave people like that languishing on the back benches while they've got jokers like James Cleverly at the top table, sort of the very matey characters who don't really have any political substance to them. They're not they haven't got that luxury to sort of leave the few real players that they have left languishing on the back benches. They have to get serious if they want to survive.